The Tea Biz podcast delivers tea news that you need to know. A recap of the week's major headlines with commentary and cultural trends hosted by Dan Bolton. It is the voice of origin for tea professionals and enthusiasts worldwide.
The Tea Biz podcast and blog cut through the clutter to connect you to experts in the tea lands. Listen as the voices at Origin reveal the trends and news that most impact the tea industry with commentary and business insights. Paired with Tea Journey, a digital magazine for enthusiasts, the Tea Biz portal is a global resource for everyone who loves tea. Hello, everyone. Tea Biz will take a break to enjoy the holidays after this week's podcast and return in the new year. Here are this week's headlines. The EU bans imports that drive deforestation, including coffee and cocoa. Tea on forest land cleared after 2020 cannot be imported, but is not considered one of the main drivers of deforestation. Hindustan Unilever shortlists 2 potential chief executives. Falling yields hold down Kenya tea prices. Plus, Sandip Thapa, founder of Kolkata, India-based CuppaTrade, an eMarketplace that enables small growers to sell tea online, discusses innovations in digital trade with South Asia Correspondent Aravinda and Anantharaman. More in a minute, but first, this important message.
What makes a perfect cup of Ceylon tea? The perfect cup is from the tea businesses that ensure the protection of all the children living within their tea estates. We salute Kailani Valley, Telawakili, Bogawanthalawa, Harana, and Eliptia tea estates. Support Save the Children, Sri Lanka.
This week, the European Union passed legislation that bans imports of products that result in deforestation, including coffee and cocoa. Member countries in the European Parliament must now ratify the proposed law. The law requires companies that sell coffee, cocoa, palm oil, beef, soy, and some derived products, including rubber, charcoal, leather, chocolate, and furniture, to provide verifiable details proving the products were not produced on land deforested after 2020. Companies located in EU member countries in violation face penalties up to 4% of their annual turnover. Larger companies must comply within 18 months of ratification. Smaller firms have 24 months to comply. Compliance checks must be carried out on at least 9% of companies that source from high-risk countries such as Brazil and Indonesia. Inspections are less rigorous for countries where deforestation is limited. 3% of companies importing products from standard risk countries are subject to inspection, and 1% of companies importing goods from low-risk countries are subject to inspection. The Reuters Foundation reports that suppliers in Brazil, Indonesia, and Colombia strongly object to the new law, arguing that it will be costly to demonstrate provenance and difficult to monitor supply chains that span multiple countries. Business Insight. Tea was not called out specifically as a main driver of deforestation, but any crop grown on recently felled dense closed forest land is subject to the ban. Woodlands were excluded. It is helpful to remember that in West Bengal, India, between 1874 and 2010, forest area decreased by 69.5%, and land under tea cultivation increased by 30.7%. The head of Hindustan Unilever, HUL, the largest packaged goods company in India, is stepping down after a decade as managing director and CEO. Sanjeev Mehta, 62, will retire in October. The company is eyeing potential successors. Rohit Jawa, Chief of Transportation, and Priya Nair, the Global Chief Marketing Officer of the Beauty and Well-Being segment at the parent company. Hull, based in Mumbai, is India's second-largest tea company after the breakup of Unilever's tea division to form Ekaterra Tea. Unilever retained Lipton, Taj Mahal, Taj, and Brooke Bond, whose red label, dating to 1903, is one of India's oldest tea brands. Unilever acquired Brooke Bond in 1984 and built the brand to a market-leading 28% share in 2020. Its primary competitor in India is Tata Tea. Jawa, 57, is a Harvard Business School MBA and the former executive vice president of Unilever North Asia. He has held sales, marketing, and management posts in India, Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, the Philippines, and China, which is Unilever's third largest market. There he built a 63,000 square meter facility for tea, spice, and food production operations. Jawa joined the company in 1988. Priya Nair, 50, has an MBA from Symbiosis Institute of Business Management in Pune. She joined the company in 1995 and has led home care, beauty, personal care portfolios and launched the Rural Mobile Marketing Program. She would be the company's first female CEO if named to the role. Mehta has quadrupled Hull's market capitalization with revenue of $6.6 billion in 2022. Tea auction prices that were edging toward the Kenya Ministry of Agriculture's much-desired minimum reserve price of $2.43 per kilo have slid since late summer. The decline in average prices at the Mombasa tea auction dates to September, according to the East Africa Tea Trade Association. In October, EATTA data showed sellers offered 500,000 fewer kilos of tea than in a comparable period in 2021. The average price per kilo in November fell to $2.34. Volume dropped an additional 465,000 kilos. Weather is a factor, with hot, dry winds and erratic rainfall depressing yields. The Ukraine conflict and Pakistan's crisis after a catastrophic flood also impacted sales. For years, Kenya bashed under the optimal climate for tea growing, comprising tropical humidity, red volcanic soil, sunny days, and stable rainfall, laments the East African News. EATTA suggests a review of the national tea policy adopted in 2013. The review is necessary to clarify roles and relationships between management agencies, growers, and the boards that manage the nation's tea factories, says EATTA chairperson Arthur Sui. Key issues he cited include low productivity, insufficient financial investment, tardy technology transfer, high costs of input, multiple taxation, and poor governance. In November, at a meeting of tea stakeholders led by Solidarity, Kenya Tea Growers Association CEO Apollo Kahari suggested that Kenya adopt a volunteer unified quality standard. The group included members of the Tea Board of Kenya, EATTA, Trust Africa, and the Independent Tea Producers Association of Kenya. Rainforest Alliance and similar third-party certification bodies are costly, said Tea Board member Samuel Najani. He estimated compliance costs at $1 per kilo at a 5 million kilo capacity factory. Najani said, quote, "Our main concern is complying with this standard by factories. Bear in mind that farmers have done a lot of work, but after complying with the standards, they don't get what they ought to. End quote. Aravinda Anantharaman in Bengaluru reports on this week's tea auction prices.
India tea price report for the week ending 10th December 2022 for sale 49. But despite the concerns about exports, it looks like India is set to close the year with higher exports in tea compared with 2021. The figures just announced stand at between 225 to 230 million kilos this year, which is an increase by 30 to 33 million kilos from last year. And much of this comes as a fallout of the Sri Lankan economic crisis, which nudged the orthodox markets towards India. Consequently, orthodox prices have remained higher than 2021. In other news, in Assam, news of warranties exit from plantations is now followed by exit by the APJ Surendra Group, former owner of Typhoon Teas. They've begun selling the estates, and 2 were sold this week, and the group intends to sell all but 1, the Karjan estate. In sale 49, North India saw 68% of the offerings sold for an average price of 185 rupees per kilo, with BP grades being the highest selling. The South also saw a 68% cumulative sales with average price of rupees 122 per kilo, and dust and fanning topped the list. Breaking this down, in Kolkata, there was good demand for orthodox and Darjeeling teas. Middle East were active for the former and Tata Consumer Products for the latter. The prices for Darjeeling, however, averaged lower than previous week. Major blenders were active for dust. In Guwahati, there was fair demand, with Hindustan Unilever active for dust grades. And in the south, Kochi continues as last week in terms of sale prices and offerings. There was good demand for CTC and orthodox leaf grades, and exporters to the Middle East and CIS countries were active for orthodox grades. Major blenders were active for CTC in Kunur. In the south, weather remains cold, and although gardens are not closed, production volumes are expected to decrease.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hello, I'm Bogdan, a passionate tea drinker and the inventor of the ultimate tea machine, the BrewMaker 1. Preparation is key to making fine tea. Sequential steepings deliver the best taste possible and unlock the true value of whole leaf teas and botanicals. Brew automates that process without using any pots or capsules. This simple-to-operate, smartphone-controlled device stores steeping profiles to consistently make great tea at the push of a button. Brew also reduces time, waste, and energy. That's because I engineered the brew to remember control settings for temperature, brewing time, and quantity. Using my patented process lets you stack steep simply and conveniently.
This week, Tea Biz travels to Kolkata, India, a global hub for tea commerce, where South Asia correspondent Aravinda Anantharaman discusses innovations in digital trade with Sandip Thapa, founder of CuppaTrade, an eMarketplace that enables small growers to sell their tea online.
CuppaTrade is a newly launched B2B platform offering the growing small tea grower segment in India access to a buyer base. We are here in conversation with Sandip Thapa, founder of CuppaTrade, to understand what he proposes to do with it and how this platform will change the market for small tea growers. Sandip, thanks for joining us at Tea Biz and looking forward to this conversation. But first, congratulations on launching CuppaTrade. Can you tell us a little about it?
Thank you, Aravinda, for having me. So primarily, CuppaTrade is an online platform, and we are developing this as an e-marketplace, wherein we are focusing on the small tea growers, cooperatives, the bottling factories, and the small producers. And we are increasing the buyer base. We are working on the market expansion, and we are going to the secondary and the tertiary buyers. We are connecting the small producers with the very large number of small buyers across the country. This is the plan in phase 1. And in phase 2, we intend to open up for cross-border transactions as well, wherein we focus on the exports. We want to, if I may use the term, blow up the market, basically. and to bring in efficiency, make it much faster, make it extremely dynamic, and bring the sellers and buyers closer.
Looking at the Indian auction system itself, where did you feel were the gaps that needed to be plugged? And what did you feel the Indian auction system in its present form was not doing that necessitated, an alternate such as CuppaTrade?
One is basically the entire process itself. We should have evolved because it's almost 170, 80 years old, the entire auction system. By this time, everyone knows how tea is to be treated, so to say. The quality assaying, the pre-sale processes and the post-sale. What are the responsibilities of the seller? What are the responsibilities of the buyers? So these have been set. And basis this, you see a lot of private sales happening, wherein the seller buyer connect, and this is happening basis the samples that the seller is sending directly from the garden, wherein the seller is taking the onus of taking care of the quality, and the buyer is taking care the responsibility of timely payment, or whatever the understanding has been with regards to prompts paying or credit facility, whatever it may be. So because the industry is old, the conventions have been set, and people are used to the nuances or the respects of the trade basically. So what we should have done is in the auction system, we should have gone many years ago directly from the X factory or a X garden sale. This is number one. You have the knowledge we have it in the palm of our hands. Why can't trade be that quick? This is one. You have the learnings of the marketplace, Amazon and Flipkart, and this is two, that the convenience bit and the speed of transaction, one side. Then you have the safety with regards to that receiving of the material and making the payment. Fourth, credit facility. It is a T-board run auction. I mean, the banks, fintech companies, they have easily opened up or tied up with the platform to provide their credit facility to the buyers or even to the sellers. That takes care of your working capital concern. Fifth, that I feel it's very restrictive in the sense that it's not enough to have a T-board license or the TMCO license if you are a buyer or a seller. Even if you have a license, you probably will not be able to operate out of that auction center if the committee doesn't allow you to do that. So there is a buyers committee, they go through that, it's almost like a club. Very interesting. New buyers do get added in the auction system, but if you go dig deeper, who are these new buyers? It's the same old firms who register a new firm. So that is how the new buyers are coming in the platform, but it's your handful of 20, 30, 35 buyers. So these things should have evolved. Who would have done? It could be the auction organizer, CTTA or the GTAC or STAC, whoever it may be. It could be the T-board. It could be the brokers. But unfortunately, because the industry is so old, you have various interest groups, and they run in their own direction. They have their own agenda. They have their own interest to fulfill, and that is how you see where the industry is at the moment. So, one is the pace of transaction. Second is opening up of the market or the platform to add very large number of buyers and sellers. Third is representation even of the small tea growers, because the kind of teas that they are producing, although the volume is very small, but there is no representation. Fourth would be, because technology has not played a pivotal role in the entire ecosystem. So even if it's a broking house, and these are just wild ideas that what we are sharing here. I mean, if they could have come up with an app, the auction organizer could have come up with systems wherein directly from the garden the invoices or all those things could be uploaded, and by the time it's coming to the warehouse, your Kacha catalog or the catalog is ready. So they could have hastened or small reduce the cycle time. So these things could have, and these are very easy. I mean, these are very common sense interventions that could have happened. Nobody is doing it, so might as well do it through CuppaTrade.
In terms of price discovery, the auction still offers the benchmark. So how would CuppaTrade address that?
See, it's very unfortunate because when you have a very limited set of buyers, and I respect because buyers also have their own interest to protect because, yes, they are looking for value. And with the commodity prices going up, it's not just the tea price, which is the procurement that they are doing. You have other various prices also, which is going up. So you have to control cost at somewhere, and unfortunately, that becomes the producer's bit, wherein they don't have a say. They are sending the teas here, and you have a very large. I mean, the buyer group, they would always want to, and you have to understand these are mostly either traders, agents in the auction system, or the packeteers. So the procurement cost has to be low so that they make a larger margin. So when you look at this, and the platform has not been open to the secondary or the tertiary buyers, no one would want to go there and bring them onboarded. Then what happens to the primary agents and buyers? We feel that everyone can coexist. A small buyer can become a larger buyer. A larger buyer can become a very large buyer. Because even when you look at the other industry, the FMCG industry, everyone is going to rural, everyone going to your tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Everyone is trying to get into just in time to fill the shelves, use technology so that inventory is less. And at every point, what that they are doing, they are trying to bring down the cost. So similar things could have happened. So when you have very limited base, how would you expect a fair price discovery? Yes, you need discipline and you need to put systems in place, but why can't these be bought by international buyers at the same time? You have to have mechanisms in place, and it may not be suitable for all kinds of tea. That's all right. But on an experiment basis, if it's a very high quality tea anyway is going to Europe, why can't they be asked to be part of the platform? Part of the merchant exporters business probably would go, but you look at the larger benefit of the industry. You have expanded the market in, and it's all digital, Aravinda. It's just a platform. That's all. I mean, you log in and you bid. How difficult can it be? And because we have examples, it's not that we are reinventing the wheel here. It's been 15, 20 years that Amazons and Flipkarts have been in the system. If now also we don't focus and alternate, wherein we are speeding up the cycle time, we are reducing the inventory, or providing your credit facility in a very transparent and open manner from the platform, even for that matter, sampling. So if we again come back to the auction bid, the sampling bid, if you go to a buyer's place, a fairly large or a medium-sized buyer, the kind of and the amount of samples they get, it's humanly not possible to taste those teas. So in many cases, they know what a garden or a particular mark is making. They know the flushes, and they know this is the quality that would be coming at this point in time. So it's just a type sample that they would see at the start of the season or the flush, and that's about it. Because the poor fellow does not have that kind of bandwidth, because they're buying from auctions, they're buying from private sale. You have the local broker sitting outside the office with the samples, and 2, 3, 4 guys are sitting outside office. Okay, please have a look at my sample. So many things happen. So when we talk about, okay, you have to see the sample and then only purchase, for certain category, definitely why not? But not for all categories. If you look at the bought leaf or the variety that is mostly bought in terms of a particular price range, that anyway has been it's on touch and feel. I mean, no one would make the cups and taste, and and that portion is increasing. So if you do something about it, you mechanize it, or that there is a data set that you can refer to instead of just seeing the teas or receiving the sample, it would make things easier for both the buyer and for the seller. Here also, CuppaTrade is trying to bring in some kind of intervention, wherein, and we will be using a lot of tech in terms of your digital catalog, to making catalogs a bit more interesting than what it is just more than an Excel sheet We want to get into augmented reality so that they don't have to just go through the samples, so to say. And it's very interesting. I mean, we are working on it, and once we are ready, I mean, we'll showcase it and we'll take feedback from the stakeholders. But so far, it's been very, very encouraging.
I would also think this addresses one of the concerns that producers have about how many samples they send out. I would imagine for a small producer, a small bottery factory, they can't afford to send so many samples out in the hope that a buyer will taste the tea and set a price for it.
Correct. While we are building the AR and the tech bit, we have already taken steps to get into focus sampling. So during the registration process itself, it's a very thorough registration process with us. Although it's very free, it's free, and you can just upload your details. But then the team sits with the buyer, the call goes, and they understand that which are the grades they are buying, which are the levels they buy at, what are their preferences, and then we also push or showcase the teas that they are not purchasing, and that is how we are trying to expand the market. You would be so surprised and happy that till now it's been only about 3-4 months that we are active and live. We've handled teas from Arunachal, Nagaland, Upper Assam, down south, all across the country, and of all size and shapes. It could be a 5 kilo pack, it could be a 2 kilo pack. All are welcome, because what we are saying, it's green tea, oolong, orthodox, tippy, non-tippy, many things. When we discuss or speak with the buyers, they deal with CTC, the boulder grades and the dust and so on and so forth. So when we say, do you buy green tea as well? Or would you be interested in Darjeeling Orthodox or some of the varieties? So they say that, no, we do not deal in these teas. So then we counter that, you have not been dealing because you haven't had a platform where you could be assured of a constant supply. Here is a chance that, we are showcasing this. So we are sending you a few samples. You test it out with your clients, and then you have a seasoned partner in CuppaTrade that if the clients like or the customers like, we can always keep the supply chain smooth for you. So this is how we are again expanding or helping the small producers expand the market.
The traditional auction system, especially with the commodity, the CTC and orthodox, the grading is very complicated, and which can be very intimidating, I would think, for a new buyer who comes in and who's not already been part of the system to get a sense of what's there and the finer differences between these grades.
It's a very interesting point with reference to the grades, and you have plethora of grades. While I was working with M Junction 2, we had discussed this with T-Board, and the idea is certainly that we need to reduce and have a very standardized kind of grades where you find it in Sri Lanka. But here the problem comes is when you say a particular grade, let's say a BOP or a BP, and that varies between garden to garden because of the sizing of the grains, and that happens because of the shifters. When you are when you bulk it and you're shifting it and the grades come out because of the mesh size. So you'll be happy to note that while we are doing our quality assessment, we are pointing out the mesh size or the size of the grains too. This is a foundational work that we have started, wherein we are providing as many data points for the comfort of the buyer, that they know, okay, this is exactly what they mean. So that, and we are laying this foundation so that we slowly try to do away with the samples altogether. It may not happen and we reduce the cost, and because as you had pointed out, after a point when we have lakhs of buyers in the platform, it will not be possible for us to send out the samples, even if we do focus sampling. So that is how, and I think it's a process. Sellers also realize it. Buyers also realize it, that there are too many grades in the market. We need to reduce it. And yes, through associations route, we are discussing with how to, as far as the representation in CuppaTrade platform is concerned, how do we reduce that? Because it reduces the cost too for the seller. If you don't have so many grades, it's a data point, it's the packaging, it's the bulking at the factory. If you have only the broader grades, it definitely reduces the cost.
With a small farmer and bottling factory, how will you ensure, because the volumes are so small, how will you ensure there's a sufficient supply of a particular tea and for a particular grade which has already found a buyer and would like to be assured of a steady, consistent supply of it?
This is one mechanism wherein you have similar kinds of tea going to a buyer, and we set the supply chain for a particular buyer while we do the matching bit. And we are getting into the AI bit wherein we are educating the platform that, okay, this seller, for this seller, this is the category of tea that is suitable. So after a point in time when the seller or we have the data points, the platform will throw us the data that, okay, for this buyer, these teas are suitable. And then we talk about positioning them to the buyer's end. So this way we are trying to bring some semblance and ensure that the buyers have the required supply chain.
So in a nutshell, CuppaTrade is not just a trading platform, but a platform where conversations can happen and insights can flow, and you facilitate this sort of a direct dialogue.
We are not traditional brokers. We are not traders. We don't want to keep a margin, and we are absolutely clear on that. Whatever benefit or the higher price that the buyer is providing, it has to go directly to the seller. And yes, we do have a service fee. We charge the sellers, we charge the buyers, but that's about it. Right. We are purely facilitators, and we want to provide a platform wherein everyone should be able to come together and speak with each other.
Right.
And to keep the data secure, safe, maintain the quality, and take care of the payments as well.
So what is the volume you need of buyers and sellers to make CuppaTrade viable and break even?
We're going for all. We're going for everybody. It's because India itself is a very, very large market. Now if you look at the figures, I think the timing for CuppaTrade is extremely suitable. This is what we feel is, if you look at the auction versus the private sale data, auctions, we are usually doing around 45% annually. And there is a constant shift towards private sale. And we anticipate that the shift would be, it will keep increasing. So, in a couple of years, it will be 60-40 stark. And if we are because we are working in the private space, it's a private eMarketplace. And we are not conducting auction. It's the buyers and sellers, they are negotiating, they are speaking with each other and zeroing on a price or agreeing on a price. This is one. As far as buyers are concerned, internally we have taken a target of we want to have about over 1 lakh of buyers across the country. At the moment, we are somewhere near 500 buyers. And we have not even stepped out because, now is the fag end of the season in North India. We are focusing more on South Indian producers at the moment. But just before, let's say February, March, we start going out, and the entire onboarding process and all those things it will be basically metal on the pedal, basically, so to say. And we want to go to the hinterlands. We want to go to the destination with the help of technology, with the help of buyer-seller meet, do the legwork, and so to make the registration process, to make the onboarding process as smooth and easy, to make them understand that, this is the sample and this is how we taste, and this is the digital version of the sample, and how do you feel comfortable with that? So it's a process, and it will take some time. And as you would know that, industries are averse to innovation and tech, so to say. We anticipate it's going to be a long haul. But yes, the figure is over 1 lakh of buyers on the platform.
Finally, how easy or difficult is it to become a member of CuppaTrade, and what do buyers and sellers need to know about what it takes to join the platform?
It's very easy. I mean, you just go to the website. It's CuppaTrade.com. You go and there is an eMarketplace button. You just click it and you identify whether you are a seller, buyer, or a both. And the registration forms opens up. many things are not mandatory. It's up left to the seller and the buyer. And that is the first step, that of registration. Then the team calls and we get into, the detailing bit. So it's that easy, and it's completely free. We don't pay to be members of Amazon or to, buy from Flipkart. So that's the model.
And it comes directly once the product itself eventually comes directly from the producer side, from the seller side.
Yes.
There is no intermediary there and concerns there.
No. So this is another, you've got to remove the layers, as many layers of traders or intermediaries. I mean, they are important bit too. I would not negate, because, they have been in the system for a very long time. But what we are only trying to do is reduce the layers of intermediaries. In some cases, it will be directly seller-buyer for a certain category of tea. In some cases or some markets, it could be the intermediaries who are feeding the destination. It could be. While we are growing, we are not averse to, agents or traders being in the platform, because what we are trying to do is focusing on the ecosystem, wherein we bring in the advantage and both for the seller and to the buyer, with the focus on better remuneration and hastening up of the sale. So I think if we are even able to reduce the cycle time, there will be many segments of buyers who will be very interested in the platform.
Intrigued by what you heard in today's podcast? Would you like to learn more from our global network of Tea-Biz journalists and tea experts? Remember to visit the Tea-Biz website for more comprehensive coverage. That's www.t-biz.com. Thanks for listening. Farewell till next week.